James Torry, how you doing?
Hi, Martin. I'm good, thank you. How
James
are you?
Torry. I'm good. James Torry, who are you? What do you do?
It's an existential question, isn't it? Yeah, I'm James Torry, as you've said a few times, but I have an agency in Manchester that we do video and animation, from kind of content stuff through to broadcast and advertising stuff. And yeah, lead a small team there of creatives, and we just love what we do.
Fantastic. Okay, so you're going to be speaking at Creative North in June. It's not happening due to circumstances beyond our control. Um, the theme is collaboration. What does collaboration mean to you? What's the sort of top line collaboration for you?
Yeah, I've had a bit of a journey, I suppose, with it, which we'll perhaps come on to. But as a top line, I guess it would be something like valuing someone else enough that you would invite them into a conversation that leads to somewhere better than you would have got on your own. Does that work?
That works like that. Good.
Something like that.
Something like that. So imagine you're there on the day at Creative North. Can you just give us a précis of what sort of areas you'd have touched upon, what you'd have discussed in your presentation?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, my thoughts aren't fully developed yet, and I would have spent a bit of time scripting it. But um, I suppose for me, it's rooted in a conversation I started with myself uh, 3 years ago, probably. So our business turned 10 years old. You start to kind of question things like, what were we here for? What are we making a difference? Have we achieved anything? All those sorts of questions, and in some ways doubts and things like that. And I, I guess I was in I don't know if I was in a funk, but I was kind of thinking around like every time there seems to be more video and animation agencies than ever. Um, a million different people doing the sort of stuff we do. And if I'm honest, every time a show reel went up, I I felt threatened or worried or kind of, oh, why aren't we doing something like that? Or every time there was a good idea put out there by an agency, they were putting on an event, I'd think, oh, we should have put that event on, or all those sorts of things. And then you'd be in pictures, and you'd hear who else was on the pitch list, and um, I don't know, just that real sense of being worried about the competition, I suppose. And I had a word with myself, and I guess it was causing some anxiety, if I'm honest. So I know people have all sorts of different ways of dealing with that. For me and my kind of belief system, one of those ways is prayer. And I had a moment where I was kind of just praying about this sort of stuff, and the thought popped into my head, like the finger pointed, like this is your issue. Like you're treating everyone like competition, and that's causing you anxiety. And it began a sort of chain of process of thinking that, what if we're all doing what we're born to do? Like, what if we're and and if you can believe that there's something you're born for, and like you're meant to go after that, you're meant to do that thing that you come alive for and that you're good at, and all those things. It sparked a train of thought that went something like, well, if we're all doing what we're born to do, then there must be enough room for us all to flourish. There must be enough room for us to uh, like succeed at it, and for us all to be okay with it. There must be enough work. And and so I started going after that as a sort of baseline of what I thought. And what it allowed me to do was kind of celebrate other people instead of viewing them as competition. So I kind of I got rid of the word competition, and I told our employees that as far as other agencies go, as far as that, we're not going to view people as competition anymore. We're gonna, if you see a show reel and you think the work's good, we're just gonna celebrate it. We're gonna say, "Good job, guys! Well done! Love what you're doing!" All that sort of stuff. As long as it's genuine, like we weren't faking stuff. But I needed to shift myself in like a real sense, like a physical change. And so I kind of made a bit of a competition with myself that as soon as the show reel went up, I'd try and be the first to celebrate it or comment on it or whatever else. And it kind of totally shifted my mindset from competition to perhaps not collaboration straight away, but something like conversation. So it opened up a conversation between me and other agency owners, and just being able to say, "Hey, like, I love that work you're doing. Really good job. Really admire your agency," or just things like that. And it's eventually, 3 years on, and particularly in this current situation, I feel like we've had some of the deepest conversations and quite vulnerable conversations with other people, totally in my sector, totally on my patch, if you were being territorial about it. But we're just really genuine conversations where we've been able to help each other, we've been able to open up to one another, and in some ways and in some instances collaborate. So we've been sending work to each other, we've been sending where we've spotted opportunities that maybe aren't 100% fit for us, but we would normally go after it. We've thought, actually, they're a better fit. Let's just send it them and see if we can help them. So, and that's been reciprocated. So I've noticed this shift in my journey and our journey from competition, conversation, through to collaboration, and it just feels a nicer place to live.
That's great. That's great. You were the driving force behind This Is the Place, weren't you? The book that was created off the back of the inspired by the Tony Walsh poem. Did this collaborative thinking, this mindset that you'd been working on, did it drive that, or was it driven by that, or how did that work?
Partly, it was around the same time. So it was in the January of 2017 is when we turned 10. The arena attack was May 2017. But in the first few months of 2017, again, I'd been having this thought of what difference do we make, really? And I had thought about like the political climate was really just it was just horrible, and people were blaming everybody, but no one was offering any solutions. And I just thought, look, we're only creatives, we're not politicians, but I'm sure we've got some answers, and maybe we could collaborate in some way that would alleviate some problems or some budget or something for city leaders and things like that. It was a vague train of thought, but that's where my head was going. And then the arena attack happened, which affected us all, and obviously the day after, Tony Walsh read his poem, and you had that sense of this is what the creative arts and creativity is for. Like, this is the gift. It's because I spoke to people and they said we're stood in that square feeling like we needed to be there, but not knowing what to feel or how to respond or whether to be quiet or loud or whatever. And then Tony just gave everybody the words, didn't he, and the feelings, and he was able to just, I think, because of who he is, and he's really genuine, authentic. He gets it. and he communicated in such a powerful way that you sort of immediately, you had permission to grieve and cry if that was where you were at, but you also had permission to laugh and be proud, and this whole kind of spectrum of emotion. Anyway, I just thought there's something beautiful happening now where creativity is leading the way, but we're seeing the very best of people. Like, if you could imagine how good a city could be, um, this is the glimmer, this is the glimpse of it. Like, when everybody shows up with kindness and love and everything else, that, like, we're seeing it. And I just thought there's got to be a way to make this last, or make a lasting impression. But by nature it had to be collaborative. So I got hold of Tony. He loved the idea that we would use his words, share them out to a bunch of creatives in Manchester, um, and illustrate that poem through photography, through words, through graphic design, through sculpture, and it was just stunning. And the truth is, we could have filled 1,000 books with the amount of creatives and the goodwill and people wanting to be involved. It easily had a whole bunch of amazing books and talent on show. But what it became was just a token of that creative community that you find in Manchester. And as far as collaboration goes, I think there's a few places it could happen, and Manchester's probably one of them. And so I think, like, as a creative in Manchester, I want to, like, it's growing, isn't it? The creative community in Manchester is growing massively. But we've got to preserve that. We've got to hold it as a precious thing, that we can collaborate and we can be small enough that we kind of know each other and we know some folks and we're connected, but vibrant and good enough that we attract and everybody's welcome, and we grow. But you know, I know people in other cities who it's not quite the same for them. Either it's too big and so you can't know people that well and people travel in, or it's too small to have that vibrancy about it. But I'm sure it's not unique, but it's special, and so just gives you a glimpse of that sort of collaboration and how special it is. And in the end, you know, we raised something like £180,000 for the 3 charities involved, which is just a great feat. It's not an accolade due to me, it's an accolade due to everybody who collaborated on the project.
That's awesome. Yeah, this is the place, James. This is the place.
Come on.
Okay, so put yourself in the Royal Exchange Theatre, in front of the audience there. The idea behind the event is to get creatives and copywriters and marketers and all, people like that in the room, and for them to go away, to take away with them some great insights on how they can be more collaborative, what tools they might want to, or thinking they might want to explore to allow them to be more collaborative, more valuable, more useful, do better work. Would you be kind enough just to share a couple of takeaways that people can take home with them after Creative North? What you'd advise people best to do to be as good collaborators as they could possibly be?
Well, I can only speak from my experience, but the starting point for me was probably something like fear. So either I'm not good enough, or that whole comparison thing, or any of those things. I think, or worse, like threatened. So I guess my advice, for what it's worth, would be don't feel threatened by it. and that competition, this competition thing, was absolutely crucial to me, changing and relaxing into our own skin of like who we are, and that's okay. We don't have to be like everybody else. And because there's a lot of chat, and it all brings anxiety for me. Is things like, you know, what's your USP? Where are you niching? Everyone pays more to see a specialist, all that sort of stuff. And for some people, if you want a niche, then that's great. Like it's just not what we want to do. And I think, you know, in following the crowd, or just not being secure in who we were, and looking across who others were, I got kind of into this narrative of, well, what are my USPs? And then I realized, actually, I don't need to be the only person who's good at video and animation. Like, it's okay for there to be dozens of us. And I don't even need to be that different. Of course, like, we're all going to be completely different because we've got different teams and different people. And ultimately, it's the people you work with and those relationships. Most USPs, I think, bottom line, are going to be to do with people. You know, who is creating, and what is the team like, and therefore what's the culture like, and things like that. That said, if you're niching in hospitality, or you're niching in travel, or whatever else, that's cool. Like, I've got room for that. It just wasn't us. And when I realized that, then it sort of gives me permission to get on with what we do want to do, and honor what it is that other people are doing without needing to copy it. So, and then that does leave room for collaboration, because if you feel like you've got to be like everybody else, then there's no room. Like, you're already taking their bit of the pie as well, if that makes sense. So in some ways, just kind of waking up to who you are and what it is you love and what it is you're good at, and focusing on those things, leaves room for everybody else to get on with what they're good at, they love, and opens the door to collaborating, because then you get the best of what you are and the best of what they are. So, long-winded way of a waffly way, isn't it? Of just saying, for me, the key was moving away from this feeling of competition to a feeling of conversation and then collaboration.
Fantastic.
And along with that was just not getting hung up about the USPs, just having room for everyone to actually be good and to celebrate that.
Brilliant. Brilliant. It wasn't waffly. I could listen to you all day, James. I could listen to you all day.
Well, we've all got a lot of time on our hands.
You're a wise man. Great. Thank you very much. And well, we will see you at Creative North when it does happen, and it certainly will happen, and it will happen in the not too distant future, I hope.
You surely will. Thanks for having me.